The sun was just beginning to peek over the horizon, casting long shadows through the trees. Dante didn't know how he got there, but he found himself lost in a dark, tangled forest. His heart raced with fear, and his breath came in short, shallow gasps. The dense trees loomed over him, their branches reaching out like clawed hands, and the ground was slick with leaves and mud. Everything around him seemed to whisper of despair and danger. Dante had always been a man of words, a poet who found beauty in the world. But now, in this sinister place, he felt utterly alone and helpless. He tried to remember how he had ended up here, but his mind was foggy, as if he had been in a deep sleep. The last thing he could recall was a life filled with love, poetry, and the pursuit of knowledge. Now it felt like all of that was gone. He stumbled forward, his feet sinking into the soft earth. The forest was silent, but Dante could sense something watching him. He felt a chill run down his spine, and his skin prickled with goosebumps. The air was thick with the scent of decay, and the faint, distant sound of howling. Dante climbed a small hill, hoping to get a better view and find a way out. As he reached the top, he saw a light in the distance, the sun rising and casting a golden glow over the landscape. For a moment, he felt a glimmer of hope. But as he started down the other side of the hill, he was confronted by 3 terrifying beasts. First, a sleek, spotted leopard blocked his path. Its eyes glowed with a fierce, predatory light, and it growled menacingly. Dante froze, his heart pounding. He tried to move around the leopard, but it darted in front of him again, snarling. Just as he thought he might be able to escape, a massive lion appeared, its mane bristling and its teeth bared. Dante backed away, his fear growing. The lion roared, and the ground seemed to shake beneath his feet. Finally, a she-wolf emerged from the shadows, its eyes filled with a hungry, insatiable desire. It was the most terrifying of the 3, and Dante knew he was trapped. The beasts represented the sins that had led him astray: lust, pride, and avarice. They were the very things that had driven him into this dark wood in the first place. Dante felt a wave of despair wash over him. He was lost, and the beasts were closing in. Just when he thought all was lost, a figure appeared in the distance. It was a man, tall and dignified, with a presence that commanded respect. As the figure approached, Dante recognized him, Virgil, the great Roman poet. "Who are you, and why do you come to me in this dark place?" Dante asked, his voice trembling. "I am Virgil, your guide," the poet replied. "I have been sent to lead you out of this forest and through the underworld. You must follow me if you wish to find your way back to the light." Dante hesitated, but the beasts were still there, and he knew he had no other choice. "Will this journey be safe?" he asked, his voice filled with doubt. Virgil smiled a reassuring smile. "It will be difficult, but it is necessary. Your path to redemption lies through the depths of hell, the trials of purgatory, and the ascent to paradise. Only then will you find the peace and clarity you seek." Dante took a deep breath and nodded. "Then I will follow you, Virgil. Lead the way." With a sense of determination, Dante followed Virgil into the unknown, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The journey would be long and fraught with danger, but he was determined to find his way back to the light. Dante stands at the gates of hell, reading the inscription that warns all who enter to abandon hope. He shivers, not just from the cold, but from the weight of the words. Hell, he learns, is not just a place of punishment, but a shadow of the choices made in life. God's love gave humans the power to choose, but with choice came the risk of straying from the path of goodness. The deeper one goes into hell, the more fixed and unchangeable the choices become. In hell, there is no more growth, no more redemption, only the eternal echo of decisions made. Dante and Virgil step into the anteroom of hell, where the uncommitted wander aimlessly, stung by flies and wasps. These are the souls who never took a stand for good or evil, not even in the smallest of ways. They include the angels who remained neutral during the rebellion against God and Pope Celestine V, who gave up the papacy rather than face the challenges of leadership. Heaven rejects them for their lack of virtue, and hell shuns them for their lack of passion. Dante feels a deep sorrow for these souls, but also a sense of justice. The uncommitted have no place in the afterlife, not even in hell. As Dante and Virgil move on, they come to the river Acron, where the recently dead wait to be ferried into hell. The souls here are eager to cross, driven by the same primal love that led them to their fate. They blame everyone but themselves for their condition. cursing God, their parents, and the world. Yet they push forward, desperate to reach the other side. Charon, the boatman, ferries them across, and Dante watches in awe as the souls are pulled into the depths. The first circle of hell is called Limbo. Here, the virtuous pagans and those who lived before Christ are condemned to an eternity without God. Unlike the other circles, Limbo is not a place of torment, but of unfulfilled longing. The souls here are not punished for their actions, but for their lack of knowledge. They never knew Christ, so they are denied the grace of heaven. Dante meets Virgil again, his guide, and learns that the only pain these souls feel is the absence of hope. They live in a beautiful meadow, surrounded by great thinkers and leaders of the past, but their desire for something more is a constant ache. Dante is moved by the sight of these souls, especially when he sees Aristotle, the great philosopher honored by all. He also meets the four great poets of antiquity: Homer, Horace, Ovid, and Lucan, who welcome Virgil and, surprisingly, Dante himself. Dante feels a mix of pride and humility, knowing that his journey will make him a great poet in his own right. As they descend further, Dante and Virgil enter the second circle of hell, where the lustful are punished. Here the souls are caught in a violent storm, forever buffeted by the winds of their own desires. Among them, Dante sees famous figures like Helen of Troy, Dido, Cleopatra, and even Achilles. But his attention is drawn to two souls who fly together, their moans and cries blending with the storm. These are Paolo and Francesca da Rimini, a couple who fell in love and were killed by Francesca's husband. Dante, moved by their story, implores them to speak. Francesca, with a voice full of longing and sorrow, tells him how love overcame them. She describes how they read a story about Lancelot and Guinevere, and how the passion in the book ignited their own desire. When they reached the part where Lancelot kissed Guinevere, they could no longer resist. Francesca's words are so tender and beautiful that Dante is overwhelmed with pity. He faints, unable to bear the weight of her tale. When Dante regains consciousness, he and Virgil continue their journey through the circles of hell. They pass through the circles of gluttony, avarice, and wrath, each more harrowing than the last. But it is in the sixth circle, where the heretics are punished, that Dante meets two souls who leave a lasting impression. Farinata Digli Uberti, a proud and powerful man from Florence, rises from his tomb to greet Dante. Farinata was a Ghibelline leader who opposed the Guelphs, the political faction to which Dante belonged. Despite their differences, Farinata shows no fear of hell, standing tall and defiant. He speaks with a mix of pride and bitterness, recalling his victories over the Guelphs and his defense of Florence. When Dante mentions his own Guelph origins, Farinata's tone grows smug, but Dante stands his ground, reminding him that the Guelphs always return. Just as Farinata is about to respond, another soul appears from the same tomb. It is Cavalcanti de Cavalcanti, the father of Dante's friend and fellow poet Guido. Cavalcanti is desperate to know if his son is with Dante, but Dante's answer is not what he wants to hear. Cavalcanti's face falls, and he sinks back into his tomb, consumed by the fear that his son is dead. Farinata, unaffected by Cavalcanti's distress, continues his conversation with Dante. He prophesies Dante's own exile from Florence, and explains that the souls in hell can see the past and the future but not the present. This, he says, is part of their punishment. They are forever trapped in the memories of their past and the shadows of their future, but the present eludes them. Dante, moved by the plight of these souls, asks Farinata to reassure Cavalcanti that his son is still alive, but Farinata, true to his nature, does not care. He is more interested in his own concerns, just as he was in life. As Dante and Virgil continue their journey, the lessons of hell become clearer. Every choice, no matter how small, has consequences. Love, when unguided by reason and virtue, can lead to destruction. And the deepest pain is not the torment of the body, but the emptiness of the soul. Hell, as Dante learns, is not just a place of punishment, but a reflection of the choices that define us. Dante's journey through hell is filled with encounters that challenge his views on sin, morality, and the human condition. Two of the most memorable figures he meets are Farinata and Cavalcanti, both of whom are trapped in hell for their pride and worldly concerns. Farinata, a Ghibelline leader, is described as magnanimo, or great-souled. Despite his arrogance and political rivalry, Dante admires him for his strength and resolve. Cavalcanti, on the other hand, is a gentle soul who deeply loves his son and the sweet sunlight. Despite their different personalities, both are in hell for the same reason. They never saw their lives in the context of a greater, divine plan. They were so focused on their temporal concerns that they shut themselves off from God. Their sins, though different in nature, both led to a form of false immortality, a desperate clinging to the world that ultimately traps them in their own tombs. In the lower circles of hell, Dante encounters even more complex and tragic figures. Among them is Ulysses, the legendary Greek hero. Unlike the other sinners, Ulysses is not there for a simple act of violence or fraud. He is in hell for his unbridled ambition and his relentless pursuit of knowledge. After the fall of Troy, Ulysses could not stay at home with his family. Instead, he set sail again, driven by a desire to explore the unknown and learn all there is to know about human vice and virtue. He urged his men to sail beyond the known world, past the gates of Hercules, and into the southern hemisphere. They eventually sighted the mountain of Purgatory, but a whirlwind destroyed their ship, and Ulysses and his men perished. Ulysses' story is tragic and noble, but it also serves as a warning. His hubris led him to push beyond the bounds of human knowledge, a sin that Dante sees as a form of pride. Ulysses' fate is a reminder that even the most admirable qualities can lead to destruction if they are not tempered by humility and a recognition of one's limits. Another figure Dante meets is Ugolino, a traitor frozen in ice. Ugolino's story is one of betrayal and revenge. He was betrayed by Archbishop Ruggieri, who locked him and his 4 young sons in a tower and left them to starve. Ugolino's tale is heart-wrenching. He describes how he watched his sons die one by one, and how, in his despair, he resorted to cannibalism. Ugolino's hatred for Ruggieri is so intense that he gnaws on Ruggieri's head in hell, a punishment that seems to mirror his sin. Ugolino's story is a counterpoint to the love story of Paolo and Francesca. While Paolo and Francesca are united in love, Ugolino and Ruggieri are united in hate. Both pairs are stuck in hell, unable to escape their sins. Dante's portrayal of these characters shows the complexity of human nature and the different forms that sin can take. As Dante and Virgil make their way through hell, they encounter his former teacher, Brunetto Latini. Brunetto is among the sodomites, but Dante treats him with deep respect and gratitude. He calls Brunetto father, gentle, and beloved, and promises to preserve his reputation. This encounter highlights the moral ambiguity of divine justice. Dante acknowledges the Church's judgment on sodomy, but still sees his teacher as a winner, not a loser. This moment shows that Dante's judgment is nuanced, recognizing the good in people even when they are condemned. Finally, as Dante and Virgil reach the lowest circle of hell, they come to where Satan is frozen in ice. Satan's presence is a stark symbol of the ultimate failure of pride and rebellion. Dante and Virgil must climb down Satan's body to reach the center of the earth, where they reverse their orientation and begin their journey upward toward the world of light. This moment marks a turning point in Dante's journey, from the darkness of sin to the hope of redemption. In Purgatory, Dante's journey continues as he and Virgil climb the mountain of Purgatory. Here, the souls are actively striving to purify themselves of their sins. They are punished in ways that reflect their specific faults, but there is a sense of hope and progress. Virgil, who has guided Dante through hell, begins to falter. He tells Dante that he can no longer lead him, and that Dante must now follow his own judgment. This is a significant moment, as it shows that Dante has grown and can now navigate the realms of man on his own. But the journey is not over. Dante's guide changes from Virgil to Beatrice, who appears to him in a vision. Beatrice, who represents divine love, reproaches Dante for his past infidelities and urges him to remember the true purpose of his journey. Dante is overwhelmed by guilt and confesses his sins. He is then immersed in the river Lev, where he forgets his past transgressions and is renewed, ready to continue his ascent toward paradise. Dante's identification with Ulysses is a recurring theme throughout his journey. In Purgatory, he is reminded of Ulysses' tragic fate, and he sees the importance of accepting the limitations of human knowledge and the need for faith. Dante's journey is a metaphor for the human quest for knowledge and wisdom, but it also shows that this quest must be tempered by humility and a recognition of the divine. As Dante reaches the highest sphere of heaven, he looks down and sees the path of Ulysses, the mad rush that led to his destruction. Dante, unlike Ulysses, accepts the medieval synthesis of faith and reason, recognizing that the mysteries of heaven are beyond human understanding. He finds peace and unity in a mystical union with God, guided by the love that was first inspired by Beatrice. This love, which moves the sun and the other stars, becomes the guiding force of Dante's life and his journey toward eternal bliss. In the heart of the 14th century, Giovanni Boccaccio found himself at a crossroads. Born in 1313, either in Florence or the nearby town of Certaldo, Boccaccio's early life was marked by a blend of privilege and uncertainty. His father, Boccaccino di Cellino, was a prominent banker who worked for the influential Bardi family. Despite his mother's unknown identity, Boccaccino acknowledged and supported his son, providing him with a solid education. At the age of 14, Boccaccio moved to Naples with his father, who had become the chief representative of the Bardi Bank in the kingdom. Naples, with its cultured court and vibrant literary scene, left a lasting impression on the young Boccaccio. He was exposed to the refined world of feudal knights, noble ladies, and the chivalric ideals of courtly love. It was here that he met Fiammetta, who became his muse and inspired his early works, including the poem Fiammetta. However, Boccaccio's time in Naples was not without its challenges. He worked as an apprentice banker for 6 years, a period he later regretted as wasted. His true passion lay in literature, and he eventually convinced his father to let him study canon law. Yet even this did not fully satisfy his creative yearnings. Boccaccio's heart was set on poetry, and he poured his energy into his writing. In 1340 or 1341, Boccaccio returned to Florence, a city that was vastly different from the refined Naples he had known. Florence was a bustling commercial hub, where the middle class was on the rise, and ambition and shrewdness were highly valued. This contrast between the refined courtly life and the dynamic, mercantile world of Florence would later influence his greatest work, the Decameron. In Florence, Boccaccio faced financial hardships. His father's fortunes had declined due to the bankruptcy of the Bardi Bank. Despite these challenges, Boccaccio's literary talents began to flourish. He wrote widely in both Latin and the Italian vernacular, producing works like the Filostrato, which retold the tragic love story of Troilus and Cressida, later adapted by Chaucer and Shakespeare. Boccaccio's most famous work, the Decameron, was a collection of 100 stories told over 10 days by 10 young Florentines who had fled the city to escape the Black Death. These stories were a blend of humor, romance, and human nature, set in a world that was both familiar and fantastical. The Decameron was a groundbreaking work, not only for its structure but for its secular and humanistic themes. Unlike Dante's Commedia, which was steeped in religious and moral lessons, the Decameron focused on the everyday lives and desires of its characters. Love in Boccaccio's world was not a path to divinity, but a stepping stone to earthly pleasure and material gain. Boccaccio's friendship with the renowned poet Petrarch, though sometimes strained, was a significant influence on his life and work. Petrarch, who was 9 years older and already famous, provided both support and criticism. While Petrarch admired Boccaccio's earlier works, he was less enthusiastic about the Decameron, which he found too frivolous and free. Despite this, Boccaccio and Petrarch remained close friends, corresponding frequently and visiting each other. Boccaccio's personal life was also marked by his relationships and his temperament. He was known for his gentle disposition and charm, and he had a vibrant social life. He fathered at least 5 illegitimate children, though none survived to adulthood. His physical appearance, tall, stout, and with an appealing face, matched his warm and engaging personality. In his later years, Boccaccio continued to write and study, focusing on the classics and the Greek language. He was never financially secure and lived a precarious life, but he valued his independence and freedom. He took on diplomatic missions for Florence and even considered a return to Naples, but these ventures did not bring him the fulfillment he sought. In 1360, he became a cleric, a decision that may have been both practical and spiritual. Boccaccio's life and work bridged the medieval and Renaissance worlds, reflecting the transition from a feudal, courtly society to a more secular, commercially driven one. The Decameron, with its vivid characters and earthy stories, remains a testament to his literary genius and his ability to capture the human spirit in all its complexity. As he wrote in the preface to the Decameron, drawing from his own experiences of love and loss, a joy it will be one day, perhaps, to remember even this. Boccaccio's masterpiece, the Decameron, is a remarkable book that speaks to us across the centuries. It's a collection of 100 stories, each a small gem in a larger necklace of narrative brilliance. But the book is more than just a series of tales. It's a profound exploration of human nature, set against the backdrop of one of history's most terrifying events, the Black Death. Boccaccio begins by describing the horror of the plague that swept through Florence, turning the city into a place of fear and chaos. People abandoned their loved ones, laws were ignored, and the fabric of society tore apart. It's a dark and unsettling picture, but it sets the stage for the book's true focus, the resilience of the human spirit. In the midst of this chaos, a group of young people, 7 women and 3 men, decide to escape the city and retreat to the countryside. They are seeking not just physical safety, but a return to a sense of normalcy and joy. In Boccaccio's idealized world, they find a beautiful palace with gardens and fresh air, a place where they can live in harmony and share stories that entertain and enlighten. These stories are the heart of the Decameron. They cover a wide range of topics, from love and lust to greed and deceit. Some are funny, some are tragic, and some are morally complex. But they all share a deep humanity, a recognition of the many facets of human experience. Boccaccio's characters are not one-dimensional. They are flawed, clever, and often surprising. Women, in particular, are portrayed with depth and strength, a rarity for the time. One of the most striking aspects of the Decameron is its critique of religion. Boccaccio shows us that the church, which should be a source of moral guidance, is often corrupt and hypocritical. In the first story, a notorious scoundrel tricks a friar into believing he is a saint, and the people follow suit. In another, a Jew who witnesses the wickedness of the clergy in Rome still chooses to convert to Christianity, reasoning that a faith that can survive such corruption must be true. Boccaccio's approach is both playful and serious. He doesn't discard faith, but questions the institutions and practices that claim to represent it. He suggests that true virtue and wisdom can come from unexpected places, and that the stories we tell each other, whether in times of plague or peace, can offer both comfort and insight. The Decameron is a testament to the power of literature to bring people together, to provide solace in difficult times, and to explore the complex, contradictory nature of humanity. It's a book that invites us to laugh, to think, and to find hope in the face of adversity. Through the stories of his young characters, Boccaccio reminds us that even in the darkest moments, there is always the possibility of light.